roller skating.
I do. And hopefully Cody can cut to it. A little song by Jim Croce about roller derby queens.
All right, we can do that. Give me a second.
And there's going to be you're going to talk about the song?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I thought he was going to sing it.
No, we don't want to.
Those pipes aren't
We're not
warmed up yet.
Gonna tell you a story that you won't believe, but I fell in love last Friday evening.
Got plenty of water.
Girl I saw on a barroom TV screen. Well, I was just getting ready to get my hat when she caught my eye, and I put it back, and I ordered myself a couple of more shots and beers. The night that I fell in love with a roller.
Okay, we're playing it now. Okay, so Dan, are you going to tell something about the song?
Well, it's obvious right now that his words to the song were true back in the 70s, but not anymore. You know, not 5'6" and 210.
No, Andy. No. All right, so that's your contribution to.
That's
okay. And
that's it.
And the trivia questions still out there: 633-5022.
Yeah.
And let's just take a quick, because I want to spend most of the hour talking to Mandy and Paul. What's going on at the high school? What's going on with your baseball team?
Baseball team, we won on Friday. We beat Mount Abrams. And the fascinating thing about that is that they've only lost a couple games.
Eddie's our baseball coach here in town, and we usually give a report every week because people feel, okay, so you won that game.
Yep,
that was
and
good.
so that should bump us up in the standings, even though with 2 wins, it's just like from 8 on, it's so close in the heel points that and I don't know if that's because we're all so good or the other way around. But anyway, so baseball's going well. Cameron pitched a complete game. Cameron Crocker pitched a complete game.
The Mount Abram game?
Yep, and did very well. He had 107 pitches going into the last 2 outs in the 7th, and if you get 110, that's his limit. But if he starts and starts the batter at 107, he can finish that batter. Luckily, Cameron was able to get an out, and that was a
complete game. Now, what do you got coming this week? So if
we have
come to our games,
Spruce Mountain tomorrow away, so we'll be at Spruce Mountain. Then we after Spruce Mountain, I haven't looked
they're
yet.
up in Jay, am I correct?
Yes, Jay, Livermore Falls combined.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, but I also wanted to get a shout out to track. I mean, the track team's doing wonderful. Both middle school, we have one kid named DJ that's been flying around. He's a sprinter for them, and he's coming first just about every meet they've had. And he's looking good to finish first in middle school. And I think it's the 4x1. I think it was. And then of course Kyle Ames is doing great at the high school level with his events, and Jay Hash has tied the school record for the triple jump, I believe.
Oh, really?
And if I have my information correct, it was the first time he did the triple jump.
Good for him. He's a good athlete.
Yeah, he is. And so we have the track is doing wonderful, and girls lacrosse which is now, I don't know if people know, but that is a MPA varsity sport for Booth Bay, and they're having a terrific season as well. So that's good to see. Coach Donna Jordan does a great job with them, and with the help of Lauren Brown.
I cannot imagine being on a bus with you up to Livermore Falls.
Well, that's a short ride.
You went up to Bethel and Madison.
Yeah, we had Madison.
Madison
We had to go to Telstar. We had to go to Madison. We had to go to Mountain Valley, to Derigo. So
long bus rides.
Yeah. None of them coming down here though.
Well, keep up.
Not to brag about track, but I've got a 7th grade grandson.
Yep.
Throwing the discus.
Oh, really?
Who is right now for 7th graders #1 in the state.
Yep. Really?
Threw it at 109 plus.
Really?
I was on Friday. I went down there and he was throwing the discus. So I decided I was going to show him how to throw it.
Did you? Oh.
And so I threw the discus. And I go, see? And he goes, Ed, that might have been 50 feet.
Did you have anything to do with his coaching or training?
I told him he could do it.
Oh, that's
And
good.
I didn't really show him how, but I told him he could do it.
His mom was great.
She was great.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Okay. Well, 633-5022 for the trivia question. Now I want to find out more about this roller. Tell us a little bit more about Mandy. You compete against, is it a league?
Yes, our team competes against other leagues within the state, outside of the state.
So you do a lot of traveling.
Not as much as we used to. We host a tournament, which was just 2 weeks ago. And so we had 7 teams come to us.
Is it a team? Now I want to show my ignorance. Is it a team sport? When I think of racing, I think of individuals. Is it a team sport?
Yes, very much so.
Tell us about it.
So historically, it was a race. And it still is a race, but it's a full contact sport. So you are hitting people with your body on roller skates.
Are there rules?
There are lots of rules.
I mean, does anything go as far as the physical
rules.
contact?
No. You can talk to that if you'd like.
A lot of the rules are basically about safety and keeping people safe. Recently, in recent years, there's been a lot more emphasis on intent and what happens as a result, and that's where the baseline of measuring how we're going to assess a penalty comes from. But basically, it's 2 groups, one from each team on the track.
How many in each group?
There are 5 people from each team on the track. Optimally at every time. There's 1 scorer for each team who wears the jammer panty indicated by the star, and usually there's another pivot, but there's 4 blockers and a jammer, 1
4
pivot.
blockers and a jammer.
Yeah, and basically
You'd be a blocker.
the blockers are trying to help get the jammers through, and they're also trying to stop the other jammer from getting through. So you're playing simultaneous offense and defense, which is where a lot of the hectic nature of it comes from. The first pass for jammers, they're trying to get lead. If you get lead, you can call off the jam, which is a 2-minute segment of the game. There's usually between 30 and 40 jams each game. After your jammer gets lead, they're trying to rack up as many points as they can get by passing every blocker on the opposing team at the hips. And so every subsequent pass, they're getting points, and they can call it off anytime in that 2 minutes if they're lead.
So it is a team sport.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely a team sport. Is there a referee out there? Or
There are numerous non-skating officials. Usually there are 7 skating officials on.
Are they on skates out there, or are they just watching from?
Both. There are some on skates and some off skates.
Yeah, the people wearing the stripes are skating officials. They're the ones on skates. There are people outside of the oval, the track, watching outside for penalties. There are several in the track. There are people specifically designated to follow jammers who are also counting points as they're following the jammers. Non-skating officials are scorekeepers, lineup trackers, penalty box timers, managers, and stuff like that.
How do you wind up in the penalty box?
Basically,
Many ways.
yeah, I was going to say many ways. Most commonly, I started as an official. What I was told to watch for first was you have to stay in bounds. So getting hit out, getting hit out, and then coming back in front of someone who hits you out. That's a cut. You can't, just come off the track and come back wherever you want willy-nilly. Other than that, it's where you're hitting people, how you're hitting them, because there's legal target zones as well as legal hitting zones. I can't punch them in the face. I have to hit either with my hip or the side of my body. You can't full bore hit someone in the back and drop them. It's very.
It's complicated.
I liken it to football. It's a very simple sport to get when you're just watching it for fun, but there are a lot of complicated, very specific rules, and I think that's the easiest way to kind of break something down.
How dangerous is it physically?
It's a full contact sport on roller skates. So
Have you
there's
been hurt,
some-
Mandy?
Nothing major for me. Bumps, bruises, a couple of sprains. People break bones, but there's a lot of broken ankles in soccer too. So
What kind of protection do you have? I know being a football coach, so I know pads and
Yeah.
helmets and so forth. What do you have
we're required to wear knee pads, elbow pads, wrist guards, a helmet, and a mouth guard.
so not much?
Is there any body protection?
It's allowed, but a lot of people don't use it. It's very cumbersome. You're trying to do quick movements, so the more things you have on, the harder it is to be fast.
Now, you all seem to develop nicknames.
Yes.
Kind of like WWF.
Well, somebody
Killer Kowalski.
Somebody said they were Princess Leia out.
Correct.
How do you
mine.
get those names?
You choose them. Some people may be christened, potentially. It's just a way to still be fun and not take yourself too seriously, and a little bit of respect and throwback to the earlier days when it was very theatrical.
Do you have a name?
I do have a name. My name is Nacho Friend.
Nacho Friend. You mentioned that you were hosting to a tournament. Is there a league with this regular schedule that you compete within a league for a championship?
Oh, no. It's not set up exactly like that. We are a league. We only have one team right now, but some leagues have multiple teams depending on how large their league is as far as skaters go. And then we compete against other leagues. What we are members of the Women's Flat Track Derby Association, which is the governing body. There are a lot of leagues that are not members, and we're allowed to play non-member leagues, but we generally play member leagues because that's for rankings.
Okay. Do you have a home rink?
Sort of. We have multiple homes because we have to move around a lot. We, at this time of year, we compete at the Mid-Coast Recreation Center in Route 90 in Rockport because the ice is gone. So when they put the ice back on the rink, then we have to vacate and find somewhere else to skate. So actually, one of the things we've been doing since 2011 is desperately looking for a permanent home, and also because we want to open up skating programs to the community because there is nowhere to roller skate in the community.
So you're playing, I'll call them road games. I heard you say you had multiple home, but you're traveling. You're
Little
playing
bit.
in other leagues, venues. There must be costs, money. It must cost
Yes.
money to do all this. Officials and so forth. Is the money raised through paid attendance?
There's multiple avenues. We'll do some fundraisers and events throughout the community. We try to work with the community as much as we can and raise awareness. But dues, entry fees at the gates, a lot of things like that help us.
Rink rentals, officials. I would think all these things. Travel. I would think all these things cost money.
We pay.
Yep, I was going to say we pay. It's a lot of out of pocket.
We all pay to play.
Yep.
Nobody earns money from this.
I was going to say the only people who earn money skating are probably the top 2 or 3 teams in the whole organization, and that's, I was going to say, you have to be making money. Bank with sponsors.
That being said,
Yes.
you must all have full-time, daytime jobs.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And you don't have to elaborate really, but what are some of your teammates' jobs?
Oh, geez. We do all kinds of things. We used to have a lot of sailors. We have a couple sailors
We have a
left.
couple of people who are still boating. And
I've done a variety of things. I currently work for Appleton Creamery in Appleton. I'm the assistant cheesemaker, so I make cheese. I work with goats. I, all around whatever needs to be fixed or.
So you kind of do
shoveled
this
or-
for fun.
Oh, this is absolutely for fun.
Yeah.
Do you practice every day that you don't have a game?
We practice 2 days a week right now for 4 hours total. So 4 hours a week of practice.
But
is
there's
offered.
travel involved.
A little bit. Within the community, we travel either to Rockport or to Union or to Northport. Those are our 3 sort of spaces.
And I assume you have to rent space.
Correct.
Okay, which costs money too.
Yes.
How'd you get into it, Mandy?
Wow, that's a long story.
It's an hour show.
All right. I used to roller skate when I was a kid, 12, 13. Used to do the kids skating, so I never got involved with like jam skating or any of the things that the adults did. So I'd just kind of go in circles, and I could always go backwards, and I thought I was, hot stuff because I could skate backwards. And then, I wasn't much of a sports person or a joiner as I got into my teens and 20s. And then I started inline skating just for fun, just to be outdoors and do something. And I did that all through graduate school. And towards the end of graduate school, I was in Tampa. Tampa Roller Derby started, and they did a little expo game. And I said, whoa, I didn't know girls were doing this. This is so cool. I want to do this. But I knew I was graduating and leaving, so I didn't get involved. And I lived in the middle of nowhere in Colorado, no roller derby.
You've been around.
Yes. Moved back to Maine. 6 months later, the little tiny mountain town Colorado gets a roller derby league. I was like, at the time I'm here, only Portland has roller derby, and I'm not near Portland, so what do I do? So I inquire, why is there no roller derby in Bangor? It's a big city. What's happening? And they said, we don't know. Just, keep your eyes peeled. And I was like, okay. And I worked at the Belfast Co-op, and all my coworkers would tease me because I said I wanted to play roller derby. A fellow's wife was stopped at the beach one day, and someone asked her if she played roller derby. I guess she was sort of the stereotype with lots of tattoos and looked really tough, I guess. And she said, there isn't roller derby here. And they said, yes, there is in Rockland. And I was on the internet at lunch. I want to play. And they made me wait another 5 months before they would let me try out. So I waited 6 years to play roller derby.
Wow. And how long have you been doing it?
Since the fall of 2011. I did just take a couple of years off to do some things with family and, get my rest of my life in some order. But I'm back.
So I want to get into the kind of like the physical part of it.
Yes.
What do you do obviously if you're as much skating as you have to do and so forth, what is your workout routine, or is there something that you do? Because like you said, you're not getting hurt as much and so forth. So you must have a pretty good routine or regimen that you follow for.
I try to. I am a registered yoga teacher, although I don't actively teach right now.
Yep.
So I have, a bit of a yoga practice that'll help kind of stretch everything out, keep things lubricated. Leading up to this tournament that we just had, I was working out 6 days a week with weights on top of practice with skating because I want it to be in really good shape. I want it to be strong. And I'm trying to get back into that routine. I took a week off to recover.
Now, as far as the competition, in all sports, there is matchups that so-and-so is going against so-and-so.
Yes.
How does that work?
Well, it depends on how often you've played the team. If you've never played the team before, you're trying to figure that out. Who are the people that you have to really watch out for?
But do you have individual matchups?
Well, it's
sort of.
Well, it's a weird thing because what we're going into versus what we came from. What we're going into the game coming up on the 2nd. It's more of a rec league. It's not something that's it's a team we've faced many times before. It's going to be more fun. It's what we're looking forward to doing. But a couple weeks back at the Coastal Chaos, the big tournament we had, it was more structured, kind of bracket style, ranking, kind of affecting more where we faced. And the game we won was a huge, that was the end. I think that's what you're going more towards. We faced a team called Bay State, the Bay State Brawlers, and this is one of those teams like Yankees, Red Sox. We back and forth, back and forth.
I wouldn't want to play the Bay State Brawlers. Anything about them.
Here's the thing. I believe the number I was given was 7. We had faced them 7 times before, and we got them in. Especially last year, we faced them twice, and it was like, one jam game. It was like, 1 2-minute period could make all the difference. This year we beat them by 1 point, and it was it was one of those games that was just miraculous, and the team did so well. And one of our last scorers, she pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and it came down to literally after the game had ended, their coach elected to challenge the final point. We got that one. The Hearts, doing this, and all of a sudden, we walked away with that a victory, and it's like those are the games that it's like, but it's like it's nice to end the season with a game we're going into, which is more fun.
Do you ever have a player versus player?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah,
kind of like Brady against whoever.
Yeah,
on a given day.
Nacho friend verse.
Yeah.
there are certain jammers that and I could throw out names but yeah, there are definitely there are certain jammers that you see and they're going to burn the house down, and strategically you want to put someone on the track that is also going to do the same. And it's not often, but if these teams are rivals, usually one team will have one or the other, and I've seen that a couple times, and that's usually when the hush falls over the crowd until you hear the whistle and everyone's on their feet.
I'm going to keep going. This is neat. Let's take a little commercial break and we'll come back. And you brought some visuals with you too, or at least you made them known to Cody, so we can play those. Okay, let's take our commercial break. Among teams, Mandy, is there kind of a feeling of camaraderie, or is there a negative relationship? Do you get mad at each other and carry a grudge, or is there a feeling that we're all out here to have fun, or
We're all
what's the
there to
feeling?
have fun. I think the only times that, and I wouldn't even say there it was anger or a grudge, but we're running a business together. So sometimes there's some disagreements about decisions that need to be made, but we work through it. And that's,
I'm referring to other teams too. What's the feeling with the other teams? Is there a camaraderie, we're all in this together, or does some real grudges develop and some
I think it depends on the culture of the league. Our league has always really prided ourselves in good sportswomanship, and we've traveled all over New England and Connecticut, and Canada, and we've always been told we're one of the nicest leagues. We had the last game we played in the tournament 2 weeks ago, a team from Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley, competed against us, and they were all telling me at the end of the game how fun it was to play a team that will take a really hard hit and say good job and not get angry about it.
You ever get angry enough to say, I really want to hurt that person, or I really want to?
No, because it's not about hurting people.
It turns into friendly competition at that point. I think you'll see it on the track, and if you see that big hit following like two people playing against each other, you'll always see that I gotcha, and then the person will it's always smiles at you.
The opposite of that, in watching wrestling,
Yes.
do the fans ever get physically involved?
Not really. I think.
You don't have old ladies throwing their pocketbooks at you.
No, I wish more old ladies would come to our games, though. That would be so fun.
Good. As long as they buy tickets, huh?
I got to regress a little bit. So we talked about the league and so forth. What is the time frame, and how do you a match starts? How does it end? I mean, is it 1-2 minute?
The game is an hour. There's two 30-second halves.
Okay.
And those are broken down into what are called jams. And those have the potential to be 2 minutes apiece.
Okay.
But like Paul was saying earlier, the first jammer that fights her way through all of the blockers isn't earning points yet. She's earning special powers. And her special power is she can strategically end that jam before the 2 minutes to prevent her opponent from scoring points.
Okay.
So it's rare to have a jam actually go the 2 minutes. Essentially, there has to be no lead jammer because they both went to the penalty box to go 2 minutes most of the time. Okay.
So that being said, is that you go for a full hour? You say, so at the end, it's just whoever ended up with the most points.
Correct.
At the end. Okay. I just want to. So what would the typical point be at the end of a match?
I was going to say a couple hundred points is usually running average.
Okay.
There have been huge. It depends on the teams, like you said, especially in tournaments, in big situations. The spread can be a bit more spread out. But where we travel to teams we play all the time, you see a lot more even, because teams like to play fun games and games that aren't going to be a complete blowout. But yeah, like 200 to 100, it's rough.
Wow. Okay, I see that just blows my mind.
And you're selling tickets to the games?
I don't know if we're selling them at this point.
But generally speaking, there's a paid audience?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a game coming up on June 2nd in Rockport at the Midcoast Rec Center. And people can look at the Facebook page for when tickets are available.
What are the prices of tickets generally?
Usually $10 with kids 12 and under free.
Okay.
So families can come.
And how do you publicize your schedule and ticket availability and how to get it and so forth? If someone's watching this and wants to know how they can get tickets to the match, what do they do?
Usually on the Rock Coast Rollers Facebook page would be updated more frequently than the website.
Yeah,
so I would go to the Facebook page.
And usually,
sure.
I was going to say almost immediately when we have something booked and scheduled and ready, there will be an event page. And you can even go on Facebook and just look up Rock Coast Rollers versus Western Mass Destruction, and there will be an event page.
Do the people that come really get into it?
Yeah, a lot of times the fans coming, it's a lot of them are either family members or friends, and that's how a lot of us get started. But it's people with an invested interest in the game.
That's neat. How'd you get involved in it, Paul?
I had a friend at one point in my life. In Rockland, they had in the winter they do kind of a recreational, just for fun, dodgeball league. And I had a friend I had met through there, and it was the first Coastal Chaos. It was their first big tournament, and I was like, I'll go watch this roller derby. And get to know what that is. And after every big roller derby event, there's an after party where all the people who put it together and who just beat themselves up, they can relax, and have fun. And she's like, oh, we need refs. So I started with the Rock Coast Rollers as an official, did that for a little while, decided I wanted to play, started going down to Portland to play, and then as my talents kind of grew, it's like, all right, I can help people who are asking, well, what am I doing wrong here? What am I doing wrong there? And that evolved into, oh, what can I do here? What can I do there? And then all of a sudden I'm a coach, and it's like, all right, this is what I'm doing now, and it's
as a coach, do you do the organizing, run practices, schedule practices, take care of travel arrangements, all the details that have to be done?
I will give credit, massive credit, where credit is due. My captains every year, and even someone who was captain last year, it's these ladies who are doing a lot of it. I mainly help run practices. I'm working on rostering for big games, but usually I'm mostly leading practice, but a lot of times it's like I'm using a practice that's been mainly worked on by one of our captains, and it's
I would think there'd be details that have to be taken care of: staffing, selling tickets, ushers, I don't know, cleaning up.
We do all of it.
I was going to say, within the league, every person in the league has a job.
Yes.
I'm not a dues-paying member of the league. I'm just coach. But all the ladies on the team, they're dues-paying members, and each one of them has a job. It's the same with every league. You have an interleague liaison, you have bout production, you have, a treasurer, you have president, you have a board of directors, and it's all them. It's all them. I'm just there to say yes. I will be there to lead practice. What do you want? What do you need from me? I can do it.
I suppose people.
We got to read the question again.
We got to read the trivia question.
You must be making them too hard. No one's calling in.
We're running out of time. We got people running around with signs over their head.
And you're just ignoring them.
During the late 50s.
Because these guests are neat.
They are.
They're neat. I'm enjoying them. I'm learning things. Okay, 633-5022. Go, Professor.
During the late 50s and early 60s, what was the nickname, seems we're talking about stage names for these roller skaters, what was the nickname of the director of roller skating at the YMCA?
And no one has called it with the
I've got to
answer.
say, a little hint, it was held at the old Opera House down in Booth Bay Harbor with a wood floor. And you had to roller skate so many laps one way and then turn around and go the other way so you didn't wear out the floor.
Wood floor, you think?
And we didn't have helmets.
Well, that explains it.
That explains what's going on here.
That explains what's going on between your ears. I know that. Wood floor, maybe it's Woody. It's wood floors.
So what was the nickname?
Wood floors, maybe it's Woody. No, I wouldn't know. 5022, 633-5022. If anybody would like to talk to our guests, that'd be great too.
Yeah.
For recruiting, I mean, you guys must have some kind of, to build the league and so forth. Do you guys do a lot of recruiting, or do you?
We've done it a few different ways. Right now, we're doing open recruitment, open enrollment. So if somebody's interested in trying it out, they need to get in contact with us. Yep. And we have some gear that we can loan them. They don't have to invest in it right off. They can, borrow some skates, borrow some pads, see if they like it, come watch some practices. It can be intimidating.
And the skill would be the skills that you show on the skates. You're skating, I assume.
Yep.
Is it any other skill required? Or?
Well, no. I was going to say, I think what happens with roller derby is a lot of people are intimidating by what people can do at certain stages. Like when I was our most recent batch of new skaters, I worked with them a little bit at the beginning, and they'd be like, "Well, of course you can do that." And it's like everyone starts. A lot of people start on the the Gazelle, with the on the ice rink, and anyone can get to where the greatest skater alive right now can be, and it just takes time. But anyone can.
Do you have any certain terms you use between each other on the team while you're playing? I mean, I've heard things like clothesline, and I heard that as a kid. That meant my mother told me the clothes were dry. Go in and bring them in.
Sometimes we tell each other to seam up, which would be making our sides in contact to try to take space away from someone who's trying to get through. That would be one. Sometimes you would have somebody bracing the other blockers to help slow them down. So you might say, I need a brace. There are a lot of rules about the pack and what makes up the pack and how far away you can be from the pack. So sometimes people will bridge to extend the pack further, and those rules don't really matter for our conversation.
You don't necessarily have a huddle that says, okay, this is the next play.
We do.
We do.
Absolutely.
You do.
If you watch a game, usually there's a selection of chairs. That's the bench. There's usually a selection of straight chairs and then a curved section. And the curved section is known as the pit. It's the next 5 people to go out,
Next lineup.
and they can talk amongst themselves.
You
what they
say
do.
5 people are engaged at any one time. How many are on the roster? How many players do you have on
You
your
can
team?
have 16 and 2 alternates, I believe,
Okay.
on a charter roster.
Okay, so how much does each one play? What's a shift? How long are you out there before you take a break?
2
Someone
minutes
else
or
comes
less.
in?
Sometimes people will stay out for more than one shift or a jam.
I was gonna say the biggest thing as far
really
as like
depends.
position plays, it's like a lot of people, most people, the division comes, it's like, are you blocking or are you jamming? Because there are people who have like the massive endurance and the really quick speed, and they'll primarily jam in. You'll strategically kind of roster them throughout the game so that, you know, they're getting a break every so often and then they're getting right back on. Blockers, it depends on who you're playing. You know, you might have one strong wall that you send out all the time if it's a really hard team. If it's a team you can face more casually, we might, you know, discuss them beforehand. It's like, oh, we can experiment a little bit more freely with who we're sending out. But yeah, it depends on each game.
So you're making the substitutes, says the coach, Paul.
It's captains, because we also have a bench coach that I'm working with most of the time, and they're kind of dictating who's coming out and going onto the bench. What I usually do as a coach, I'm watching the game and I'm calling out to the jammer and giving them advice. So to answer, kind of go back and answer one of your questions, what I tend to do is I do a lot of hand movements. If the jammer's, you know, going around and, you know, the other jammer's stuck, I might say, keep going around. If I want them to hit the pack, get their points, and then call it off, you hit it and quit it.
Oh, the time goes fast when we start talking. Let's take that other break. Cardinal cap. We're back, and I would think you'd have to be in great physical shape.
It's no matter what you're doing, if you're jamming, hats off to jammers, because you have to be in impeccable shape. I don't know many other sports that you have to be basically a track star, because they're just going for 2 minutes.
So in addition to
And
the
they're getting
practice,
hit the most.
Yeah.
And getting hit is exhausting.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that.
in addition to the practices,
Yes.
what does it take to stay in shape?
Like I said, my routine since the winter was 6 days a week on top of practices, lifting weights, doing endurance activities.
I was gonna say, I don't try. If I miss a workout, I feel like I've sinned terribly.
What's important?
Yes.
What are the important? Is it speed that's important? Is it physical toughness? Is it gamesmanship?
It's
All of it.
everything in your body that will contribute to gameplay. Like for me, it's balance. It's, you know, I just came back from a knee injury, you know, and it's everything that makes my legs strong, my calves strong, my thighs strong, you know, all the squats. Every time someone asks me something, it's like, oh, how do I get used to it? It's like squats, all the
Yes.
squats,
Yep.
because everything from the waist down, you're just going to be using. Your feet will transform in ways you never thought possible, but it's, you really just need to be solid. And, you know, some of the fastest people, it's their cardio is up, and just everything from that waist down, it just needs to be jacked 100%.
Yeah, I would think it would take tremendous endurance and being in shape. And
The game is fast and slow. It changes throughout the game. So
how important
sometimes
is
it's
physical?
fast.
How important is physical size?
Well, it can make a difference, but it can make a difference in both ways. So you can have a really small jammer who can squeeze through the tiniest space. She needs 2 inches on the edge of that track and she'll get through. Or you can have a big, large blocker that you just can't move when you're trying to get them out of your jammer's way.
Very similar to football.
Yeah.
You know, your running backs are fairly small.
Jammers
Approach
aren't
them
always.
and go once the hole is opened up.
Right.
What
Jammers
position do you play?
can be powerful too, so they can just, you know, push everybody else out of their way if they're
Yeah.
larger. So I tend to be a blocker.
Blocker, okay. Okay.
Now,
Which-
if let's just say Ed came out here to wanted to try out for one of the teams.
Yes.
Would you say that he has to get in better shape? What would you advise him to do?
He needs to learn how to roller skate first.
There we go. Thank you.
Everything else will come later.
I was gonna say there's no cookie cutter body shape
No.
for roller derby. No matter who
That's
you
the
are,
best.
there's no. You can come in off the street and like I said earlier, it's I think it's intimidating for some, but you can come off the street and just we'll
Now,
take it.
I've talked to a few people who've attended roller derby competitions, and they say once you get there, once you can get them in there once, they come back. Do you find that to be true?
I think so because it's so welcoming. I've and I'm sure you two have been a part of a couple different groups. Have experienced a couple different groups. I've never gone into either a locker room or a venue to go see a team, interact with a team, ref for a team, play with a team, and not felt 100% welcome. I've not felt like, oh, I'm a stranger here and I shouldn't be here. They don't like me. It's, oh, who are you? Oh, cool. This is what you're doing. Awesome. And and everyone's welcoming. It's just that's the environment. It's
How long? You say there's an hour time. Is that a running clock or a stop clock? Does it stop on occasion?
It does stop sometimes. There are official timeouts and things that will stop some of the aspects of it, and then we have a 15-minute halftime.
So how long does a match take in clock time? A couple hours?
Yeah, like 2 maybe from beginning to end, from doors opening to the final score and the
hours of-
woohoo, everybody wins.
it's like most sports. If you come, it's like don't plan on looking at the time and thinking that's how long it's going to take because
Right.
anything from injuries to
Yes.
a really tricky call could really push that time to.
Now, as with any other sport,
Yes.
there is very often trash talking or a
Sometimes.
little bit of physical contact
Most of the
beyond the
time,
game. Does
most
that
of the-
happen?
No, most of the time we're chit-chatting.
I was going to say, yeah.
I had
Okay.
a girl ask me where to go have a beer after the game at the last game I played in.
Oh, maybe you
Where
could
do we go after this game?
No,
have
You
a
mentioned beer.
all of our events are family friendly. I was going to
Yes.
say most derby it's family friendly. I don't think I've ever been to an event that's not. And yeah, like she said, these are your friends. These are people you respect. You do the same exact thing that you do, and again, when especially in New England, when you're traveling the same circuit, and you're seeing the same people. It's like, oh, how you been? It's like, and if you have that kind of rival, that's a friendly challenge. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get you this time. It's like, well, I'd like to see you try, and it's like, good luck, and then it's just the way it
So
is.
you're raising some money through sale of tickets. Do you
Correct.
sell concessions at the games?
Not us, no.
No, I was going to say, Coastal Chaos, we tried, like the bigger tournaments, you might see a little bit of that, but mostly it's either the venue or some other type of configuration.
Okay, and so the main influx of money is from the competitors,
From
the
the
team
dues.
members.
Yep.
From dues, yep.
Yeah, the dues that you
And
pay.
fundraising events, which we have one coming up in September, actually. I did forget to mention that.
Please do.
September 27th, we are doing a film screening at the Strand Theater in Rockland. They're sponsoring us for this fundraiser. It is called Crazy Derby Love. I don't know the time. It's a documentary about roller derby with some of the top competitors in the world being interviewed. And it's considered one of the fastest growing sports in the world too, which is kind of a nice little tidbit. There's over 1,500 leagues in the world
Is that
right
right?
now.
And I assume people could access the information on this fundraiser.
On the Facebook.
Yes,
Yeah,
on the
if you
Facebook
find our
page.
Facebook page, it will be
We haven't been
definitely showing
advertising it yet. I think they're still hammering out the final details, but we definitely know it's the 27th of September.
You do this for fun.
I do this for fun.
Okay.
Keeps me
How
sane.
important is winning and losing?
Well, it's a lot more
Winning's
fun to
fun.
win.
I don't know whether I was in high school or whatever. There was a movie that came out, and I don't remember the name of the movie, but it was a roller derby movie. And I mean, I just remember, the elbows to elbows and over the walls they go. So that was totally not.
Well, like there was the one Whip It came out with Ellen Page a few years back, and I watched it before I had anything to do with roller derby, and then I watched it afterwards because I knew a lot of people were like, eh.
It's cute.
And it's cute, but like the first game, I think you're listening, and it's like, oh, it was a 7-point pass, and I'm like, you can't get 7 points in a single pass, and so it's like I immediately, I think back in like the 80s and the a little bit early 90s is like you had that kind of the more wrestling cheesiness, but now it's more of a serious sport, and I think people definitely, especially with the work, like we talked about the work and the money put into it, it's like we try to be a bit more professional about it and talk, it's especially from my perspective, it's like all these people working very hard and giving up their time, and I definitely respect everything they do, and it is like a really amazing sport to watch, and it's definitely, if you get the chance to go see it, because you will realize the difference.
Well, the impression I get is that it's become a much more serious sport over the years as far as the competition is concerned.
Yes.
And I can remember, and I'm probably going back 10 or 15 years, but we had some guests, I'll mention it, from a team, and it seemed to me that at that time there was more of an emphasis on having someone out there who was attractive. Maybe people wanted to look at and things like that, and it was less serious as far as the sport itself was concerned. Would that be inaccurate as far as the evolution of the sport is concerned?
I think, well, the resurgence back in 2001 was in Austin, Texas, and they wanted it to be theatrical. They wanted it to be entertainment.
Theatrical was the word I was searching for.
Yes, they wanted it to be entertainment, and they would have fights, kind of like they did in the 40s.
It was more like pro wrestling.
Right. Well, it was still a game, and they still had points. It wasn't rigged, but they would have. The
emphasis was more on the theatrical nature than on the competition.
And it's evolved from there, just in that short time, just since 2001, into a more serious sport.
Do you sense that it continues to grow in popularity as far as both participants and fans?
I would say so.
Yes,
I mean, because the more time goes on, you kind of see this kind of, it spreads. You see more people that like when I started, I'm going on year 4, and like at first people were like, oh, what? Okay, that's a thing, and then now it's more like, oh, I know someone who does that, and it's like just less than 5 years. It goes from people not knowing to everyone knows someone who does it.
And to kind of piggyback off that, is there any leagues for kids that in the roller derby?
Funny you should ask. That has been a goal of our league to start junior derby since our inception, and we just had a junior game, not with any skaters affiliated with us, but with New Hampshire juniors and Fredericton juniors at the tournament. It was the first junior roller derby game played in the state of Maine. And I don't have all of the details hammered out yet, but this will also be on the Facebook page very soon in the next 2 weeks or so. I'm trying to run a week-long kids camp this summer in August to just kind of put out the feelers and see what kind of interest there is amongst kids.
That's pretty neat you say that, because I do some work with the camps here and so forth, and that might be something that if kids are interested and so forth, is Warren or Rockport, Rockland, whatever, wherever you have it. That's not too bad of a travel. I mean, that we need to get some kids, because I was just thinking, because I have 5 kids, and every one of them would have loved it. Just listen to you guys and so forth. They would have loved it. And then I'm thinking my daughter, who's 14, like, we gotta get her in that.
Well, if this camp runs, she's eligible. It's 6 and up.
Okay.
So,
and it's completely safe. There's varying levels with
there
junior
won't be
derby.
contact.
No, I was gonna say, it's at the camp there would be, but like just junior derby itself, there's varying levels, and the smaller levels, it's like it's just more leaning, and there's no really going for hits, but it's just kind of the base elements of the game.
We'll definitely check it out on the website, on the Facebook.
Yes.
That's neat. Is there anything else you can tell us about your team? I want to get people interested, because I'm interested. You guys are neat.
We're a little team, but we're pretty mighty. We accomplish a lot.
Yeah.
And we've just had the most successful tournament, and we have one team. We have not even a full charter roster as far as the number of people we could have on our roster, and yet we pulled this off, and it was so successful, and everyone was happy, and we're a great group of people. And it's so nice to work with others that are not just like doing the fun thing that you're doing, but we're running this business and we're trying to grow it, and we're trying to be good community members. We're always affiliating ourselves with other organizations in the community that align with our mission, which is, largely, I can read you the mission statement, but it's about empowering women in athleticism and roller derby and being good sportswomen and being kind to one another.
Well, it would seem like a great competitor, a great way to stay in shape, a great way to have fun, a great way to engage in something that's just competitive. Is it seasonal?
There's kind of a season that we kind of try to structure around, but roller derbies, and I was thinking this on the way here, my dad played softball. You know, and that's something in the spring you play softball. And a lot of other people, adults around here, they go, play softball. But that's not what this is. This is like full year. We have maybe a month or two in the summer where we kind of take off and cool down a little bit. But roller derby in the whole state, the whole country, the whole, the world, it doesn't stop. It's full year all around. It's like on the busy bee. I never stop. I was gonna say it's probably on your mind now all the time too. It's just like it just keeps going. But it's like there's times where you're focusing more on games and then you're setting up for the next season's worth. But it's like you're still always together and always talking.
Is there a championship at the end of the season? Is there an overall?
For the Women's Flat Track Derby Association, there is a championship. But those are generally top 10 teams in the world.
I think it's like the rankings. It's divided into divisions, and then those divisions.
Top division teams.
We have about 4 minutes left, and we haven't got that phone ring. Can someone just call to see if the phone's working?
633-5022.
Tell us a roller derby story.
Tell a roller derby story or answer the trivia question. One of the two. I didn't know anything about it when we started. I know something now, not much, but I know something now after listening to these two great folks. No question in my mind that number one, you'd be a blocker, and number two, you'd be spending a lot of time in the penalty box. There's absolutely no question in my mind.
The penalty box sounds like a great break.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you spent some time there.
So is that like for the penalty box? Because I thought of this earlier. Is that like hockey where you go in for 30 seconds, then you can jump back out, or if you go into the penalty box, can you add another player, or do you have to be a player short?
You're short.
Okay.
Are substitutes made on the fly?
Say again? Sorry?
Are substitutes made on the fly, or can they only be made during a stoppage in play?
Only there's no really substitutes. The only time the lineup changes is after the end of a jam. The only time in the penalty box a substitute happens is when someone fouls out, and usually you might have to have another player fill in that penalty.
And what that means is if you get 7 penalties in a game, you're done for that game.
A game misconduct.
I would last the first 2 minutes.
Once again, Mandy came a long distance. She came from Searsmont, and Paul came a long distance, not quite as far as Searsmont. We really appreciate you coming down. Thank you very, very much. I know just from people I see on the street that a lot of people watch our little offering. Hopefully we got some of them interested, but I'm interested. I think it's neat. Thank you very, very much.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you,
Paul. Thanks for coming.
All right, the answer to tonight's trivia question is the nickname was Dreamer.
Dreamer. Now, what does that have to do with the wooden floor and the turning
It
around?
was at the old YMCA at the Opera House, which had a wooden floor, and during the spring of the year, the building would shift a little bit, and there was like a 6-inch hump in the floor. But if you were playing basketball from being 5'6", you all of a sudden was a 6-footer if you shot from that sport.
Hence Dreamer.
So Dreamer is the nickname of the director. So what was his
of roller skating?
Yeah. What was his real name?
Marilyn Abbott.
Abbott.
But he also would put on an old record player, and once everyone hit that hump in the floor, the record would skip.
We're about to go off. I just want to say one thing before we go off. If anyone knows someone that would like to be a guest on our show or would like to be a guest yourself, let us know. 633-5022. We can't get great guests like this every week, but we appreciate it. Thank you again, Mandy.
Appreciate the
Thank you
effort.
again.
Check
Paul.
out the Facebook
Very
page.
nice of you for coming.
Mid-coast
we almost had a rear ender downstairs there when Mandy was chasing me. I thought I showed pretty good speed, Eddie.
Bob, you haven't shown pretty good speed for 62 years.
See you next week, folks. Thanks for watching. Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, it was
I
super
told you
fun.
that hour goes fast.
It's great.
Yeah, it's funny. We're trying to get we all have questions going through our
Yeah,
heads.
there's so
And when you start to swing it, you gotta give it your all Life is a ball game being played each day. Life is a ball game everybody can play. Yes, you know Jesus standing at the home plate. He's waiting for you there.
try to throw this one now. Foul.
Oh, yes, and he draws.